Hi guys, the camera we're looking at today is a Minolta SR-T 101. They sold a bazillion of these in its heyday. This was made from 1966 to 1976. This particular model was around the 1970 vintage. The T is made larger here in homage to Mr. Toshima for the innovations for the metering system for the SR series. I got this in Goodwill for $10. It was hopelessly jammed with the self-timer, so there's a lesson to be learned there for everybody looking for used cameras, especially old film cameras. In general, you never want to touch the self-timer button. It's a disaster waiting to happen on almost all old cameras. It's either going to jam or never release or something strange. Unless you want to take the camera in to get it clean, lubricated, and adjusted at your local camera repair shop, avoid messing with the self-timer. Now in this case it was hopelessly jammed. I fiddled with it, and finally miraculously it just released itself, and I never intend to touch the self-timer again. But it's a really great camera. These are worth around $125 on eBay. This particular one has a 1.4 lens, which should actually increase its value a little bit. Its chief claim to fame when these first came out in 1966 was their metering system and a couple other innovations. In 1963, the Topcon RE Super pioneered the first full aperture metering system. So you could take light readings with the wide open aperture. In 1964, the Pentax Spotmatic used 2 cells for an averaging metering system, the first averaging metering system. But this was the only Japanese SLR in 1966 that did both of the innovations at the same time. It has this weighted 2-cell metering system. There's a CDS cell for the top and the bottom half of the frame. And the idea is to compensate for the bright sky. So it takes an average metering system but does a little sky compensation. It does fully automatic metering with compensation for the shooting aperture. The metering is a combined aperture, shutter speed, film sensitivity, and exposure indicator needle. There's 2 needles in the viewfinder. One shows the CDS cells moving, and the other meter is hooked to the aperture setting here, and the shutter speed, and the ASA setting. And between the 3 it moves the second meter, which is actually a little circle that you put the first needle inside of. It also does automatic aperture range indexing when mounting a lens. Now in the old days when you mounted a lens, especially a Nikon is a good example. When you mount the lens on a Nikon, you have to go through some gyrations to sync the lens with the camera so that it knows what the maximum aperture of the lens is. Minolta did this automatically, something Nikon should have taken a lesson for. The other neat thing it does is it automatically powers off the meter sensitivity, the meter reading when you do a stop-down reading. Stop-down readings are a little strange on this camera. Let me take the lens. Well, if you're looking at the lens now, you'll notice I've got it set at f/16, the smallest aperture, if you can see down the aperture. Usually when you do a depth of field preview, you push a button and it closes the aperture, and then when you release it, it opens it back up. In Minolta, they use this like an ink pen, so you push it once to close it up. That closes it up to f/16. Then you have to push it again to open it back up. So it has like an on-off function, which is kind of unique. If I remove this lens, this is the mirror lockup mechanism. Quite simple. But when you put this lens back on, it automatically indexes, which is really a lot easier than Nikon ever did it. If I can just find the index. Right there's the red dot. And you mount it, and it's automatically indexed, which is kind of neat. So at any rate, Here's the aperture ring from 1.4 to f22. The focusing ring is indicated in both feet and meters. This is probably a Japanese camera because the meters are in white and the feet are in green. Here's two sync ports for flash sync, whether it's bulbs or electronic. On the top, the rewind knob. Here's the shutter speeds from bulb to 1 second and up to a thousandth of a second, and you lift it up to change the ISO or ASA setting. Right now we're at 500th of a second. That's the film counter dial. Here's a film reminder dial on the back. On the bottom, this would be press this button to rewind the film. This is where they put in the battery. These take the old mercury batteries, the 1.3 volt batteries, which are very hard to get and very expensive, and there's other ways to compensate for that. A lot of people put a diode in series and modify the cameras. You can get 1.3 volt batteries, but they're difficult. But the 1.5 volt batteries fit, and when you have one of those in, everything works except the meter reading is off. So if you intend to actually use it to take pictures, you might want to get the proper battery. I put a 1.5 volt battery in here and it works fine. Here's where you turn the battery off, on, and there's a battery check position which moves the needle up to a special position in the finder. You pull the rewind knob out to release the back, and there you would load your film. It's a focal plane shutter, cloth plane that moves horizontally. I'll put it on bulb so you can see it actually get out of the way. Open, closed. It's a great little camera. It was a bargain to find it. Like I said, for $10 it was hopelessly jammed. It's worth a lot more than that now, but I must have fiddled with it for 2 hours before I could get it to ever cock the shutter. It was in between, didn't work. I thought it would just be decorative, but in fact it turns out to be fully functional. Okay, thanks a lot for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. There's 3 ways you can help. Tell your friends about it, click on the subscribe icon below, and click on the thumbs up. I'd appreciate it. Bye.
My baby girl can really run.